Hi, my name is Joni Jones. I'm a registered nurse, and my area of specialty lies in mental health and also with individuals that have developmental disabilities. Point C is a very interesting short film or video because it really impacts everybody differently. It sends a very, very strong message, and when you come to the end of it, it's very emotional. It's very appealing, and everybody has a different response. Maybe it's based on their frame of reference, but this is what makes it very intriguing. So there's just a few points that I'm going to go over, based on some of my experience. And if we look at the child's baseline, their baseline is that they have the greatest mom and dad. They felt like they were really protected. They were taught, they were fed, and feeding isn't just the literal sense of the word as food, but it's the other food for thoughts that they were fed. And then we get to the point where all this commotion is going on, and now the child starts to blame themselves. And this is very common when people are going through a divorce, especially when you have an intact family and now it's no longer going to be intact, and the child or children are in the middle of it. They start to say, did I do something wrong? What did I do? And this affects their self-esteem. So many things can happen when somebody's self-esteem is affected. We can look at energy levels go down. They don't feel that they're worthy or good enough, and they may be not achieving their goals. They may not have the energy. There's a lot of things. And when a child starts getting bounced around, as we see, then that creates a lot of confusion. So they really don't know what to think, what not to think. And then what the message that's coming across is that materialistic things become a little bit more important. So the child can very easily feel that they are, on the back burner. But when we have this court proceedings that are going on year after year or after time, the courts and the attorneys become a frame of reference. So this is the way that now a child is looking that problems are solved, is through the court system or through somebody else determining what the outcomes are going to be. You can go through the motions, things with conversation, that there can be a loss of trust in that from the confusion. And if we look overall, and I asked you, what speaks louder, actions or words? So best interest of the child, we love you, we're doing this for you, but what are the actions really saying? And then we get into post judgments, and it's going on and going on. The trauma continues. And trauma is very individualized to each person. Trauma can represent underlying fear, and that fear can impact a lot of things. And we see that the child feels lost, and they're about 15 years old and they have no place to go, so they're kind of like stuck. And what happens to you when you feel like you have no place to go, or when you feel stuck? And this is very important in the world of mental health, because we see a lot of people as they start to get older, in that preteen and young teen ages, that they may start hanging out with people that may not be very great influences, but they're getting attention from them. They're getting positively reinforced. We see people that start to engage in alcohol at a very young age, or smoking, and then drugs. And there's people that kind of get confused with love and the act of sex. So that becomes very confusing to people. And very more serious note, some people just feel that they're so lost, and the only way out is they either start cutting themselves, or they start contemplating suicide. Some even complete the task. So is this really the message that parents want to send their children as their joy and their pride? So when the child is sitting there thinking about point A and point B, and let me think about point C, and they're lying in bed and they're having these sleep disturbances. Sleep disturbances can impact a lot of things. It can even impact judgment. It can impact medical conditions. So of course, when the parents are going through all this, they're not really focused on these things. And comes right out and says, you know, she wants to listen to the parents, but the thing that comes to is they feel like there's no one to talk to. And like I said, it becomes very important when you're talking about the friends that they start to migrate to. So there's a lot of mixed messages that are going on and what the intent is, but what are the actions really displaying? And then when finances become an issue, and we're talking about finances with our children, what does finances really represent? It represents security. So now it's like, okay, you know, now we're not going to have the finances for this, that, or the other, and then there's a sense of insecurity. So again, how are they solving this? Well, very interestingly, it's very ironic that when the child wants to break free, what do? Are they sitting down? Are they talking about it? Are they discussing it? No, they're hiring an attorney and they're going to the courts because this now has become their frame of reference on how problems get solved. So, you know, there's just a lot of fear, you know, that can come out when there's you know, no control. And then at the end, you see when the represented child finally reaches their end. They feel like they have lost their support system of their mother and father. And the balloon, where it represents the child finally breaking free and it starts to go higher and higher until it disappears. Well, think about a balloon. When you release a balloon into the sky, where does it go? We don't know. We don't know where it's going to land, what's going to happen when it lands, when it pops. So we don't know what's going to happen to the child as they begin to age and even become young adults, in which way their life is headed. So the parents look completely baffled and they're just like scratching their heads and looking at each other like, what happened? Well, that's the greatness of this video or this short film, because it will help parents gain insight to what could happen if amicably they don't try to come up with solutions and get control of the decision making, which would actually show the actions of being in the best interest of the child. So if there's any emotion and any education that comes out of this, is what not to do. Because if you really, really, really want to get the outcomes that most parents do when they're going through divorce and they're focused really on their child and not really on themselves, and get a little bit of guidance of what's important in the end and what's not, point C just might be the video for them.